Davis, let me ask you, how did you come about making a film about education? I mean, you had made such a powerful statement with An Inconvenient Truth. How does education fit in? Your first film was about education.
Yeah, I was actually bound. I was going to direct the movie Training Day at Warner Brothers. This is 11 years ago. And I was fired off that job. And it was just completely wrong, and I was so angry that I went and bought a little camera, and I said, I'm going to make a film about people I like. And this is a true story. These are 5 teachers who had never taught before were going into our LA's worst schools. And in their classroom, they were performing miracles. Outside their classroom was a system that was broken. And it struck me after I made that film that we'll never fix our schools unless you deal with that other thing. And also unless you really show the stakes in this crisis. So 10 years later, Participant Media asked me to make a film about public education. I said I did that. And by the way, I think it's a quagmire. I don't think you should make that movie. And I might have been right. But a month later, in September, I was driving my kids to school. And I was putting them in the minivan, backpacks. And you see it in the movie, lunch boxes. And I remember just looking out of the corner of my eye at a public school that I was driving by that my kids should have gone to. And then another one. And then another one. And it made me think, what about other people's kids? My kids are doing well. I'm taking care of them. But what are we doing about the other kids in our neighborhood? And that there are plenty of kids that are not getting the opportunities mine are. And what if I made a film from that point of view? And what you see is a product of that.
Bill, there's all kinds of ways that you can use your time and demands on your time. What has motivated you to give so much of your time to this film? Why a film?
Well, I'd say there's 2 stages. The first is that the foundation my wife and I have, Melinda, we picked education as the one big thing. We've done lots of things that haven't worked. We're learning as we go. And so when I heard that Davis was making a movie about this topic, I was looking forward to sharing some of those lessons. And Davis came up, and we bonded, spent a lot of time, more than we had allotted, I think. And it was a fun conversation because we both cared a lot about it. And I said some of the places I found exhilarating and depressing, and Davis told me some that he'd seen, and then. Later he said, hey, you can come in and play this role. So I thought that'd be fun too. So it's a natural thing. The message of this movie really, I think, and the power of this movie is partly why I'm optimistic that we'll change this issue.
Jeffrey, talk to me about your hopes for this film. You've been working on this issue for 25 years or more. And
it gives us a way of taking policy and rhetoric and politics and putting faces that just make it right or wrong. And it's hard to deal with this issue to me when it's right or wrong. And we know what we saw is wrong. There is no reason that your future should be based on a number in a bin in a lottery. That is just un-American. It's undemocratic. Has nothing to do with any of the founding democratic principles that our country is built on, which is about fairness and equity. This is not about fairness and equity at all. This is probably the most important issue facing our nation. And I do not worry about America being attacked by terrorists from afar. I do not think that's what's going to threaten our country. I think what's going to threaten America is that we're going to end up having so many of our young people unable to hold a job and keep a job and be prepared for a job, that the burden of the expense of that is going to weigh our country down and is going to threaten the very future of this country. And I think that America is waking up to this issue, and we're going to have to do something about it. This is going to give us an opportunity to actually make the point, not by me going out and yelling about this like I'm yelling at you all now. Sorry about that, right? But by people seeing these young people and feeling like we've got to do something about this, and now we've got to organize the what. What is it that we need to have communities do so that they can really start to tackle these kinds of issues? So I am hoping that this film is seen by hundreds of millions of folk. and I won't get a dime. So I don't want you to get it confused about why I'm hoping. I'm hoping people will do that because it'll change our country. If people see this film, I fundamentally believe it's going to change our country. And so I'm going to do everything I can to get as many folk to look at this as possible so that we can do the tough work, which is going in communities and saying, what can we do to improve public education in those communities?